The old Jeep rumbled down the deserted road, its headlights cutting through the encroaching darkness. Wind howled like a banshee, whipping through the skeletal trees lining the roadside. Inside, Josh laughed, cranking up the radio to drown out the unsettling noises.
Dude, seriously creepy out here.
Mark muttered, his eyes glued to the passing shadows.
Relax, scaredy cat, it's just the wind.
Erin said, nudging him playfully. But even she couldn't ignore the growing unease as the Jeep finally sputtered to a stop before a pair of rusted iron gates. Twisted and overgrown, they seemed to reach out like skeletal fingers guarding the long, winding driveway leading up to the abandoned house on the hill.
You sure about this, Josh?
Lisa asked, her voice barely a whisper.
What's the matter? Chicken?
Josh, always up for a thrill, grinned. The iron gates groaned in protest as if warning them to turn back. Beyond, the house loomed against the stormy sky, its silhouette resembling a gnarled, ancient face. Broken windows stared down like vacant eyes, daring them to approach. The wind seemed to whisper through the trees, carrying the scent of damp earth and something else. Something ancient and unsettling. Crows cawed overhead, their cries echoing in the stillness with an almost human-like quality.
Let's just get this over with,
Mark mumbled, already regretting his earlier bravado. With a shared look of nervous excitement, the four friends cautiously stepped out of the Jeep and into the oppressive silence. Each footstep crunched on the gravel driveway, the sound amplified in the stillness. As if sensing their presence, a sudden gust of wind slammed against the old house, rattling the windows in their frames. The friends exchanged uneasy glances, their breath catching in their throats. The front door creaked open with a groan, revealing a cavernous hallway swallowed in shadows. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through grimy windows. The air hung heavy and still, thick with the scent of decay and forgotten memories.
Hello?
Josh called out, his voice echoing in the stillness. The only answer was the sound of their own breathing and the pounding of their hearts. Slowly they ventured inside, their eyes struggling to adjust to the gloom. Cobwebs clung to everything, and the floorboards creaked ominously under their weight. The house was a time capsule, frozen in a bygone era. Furniture draped in dusty sheets huddled in the corners, and faded portraits lined the walls, their eyes seeming to follow the intruder's every move. A grandfather clock stood sentinel at the end of the hallway, its hands frozen at the stroke of midnight. As they ventured deeper into the house, their unease grew with every creaking step. The portraits lining the walls seemed to watch them with a strange intensity. Their once bright colors had faded with time, and their expressions seemed to shift and change in the flickering light of their flashlights.
These portraits are creepy,
Lisa whispered, her voice tight with apprehension. One portrait in particular caught her eye. It depicted a young woman in a long flowing gown, her face pale and ethereal. But what sent a shiver down Lisa's spine was the fact that the woman's eyes had been scratched out, leaving only empty sockets staring back at her. In the next room, they discovered a dusty old gramophone sitting on a table. As Josh reached out to touch it, the needle suddenly dropped onto the record, filling the room with the scratchy strains of a forgotten waltz. The sound sent chills down their spines. It was as if the house itself was coming alive around them. The air grew heavy, charged with a strange energy. Erin swore she felt a cold breath on the back of her neck, making the hairs stand on end. A floorboard creaked upstairs, followed by the distinct sound of footsteps moving slowly across the wooden floor.
Did you hear that? Someone's up there.
Mark hissed, his eyes wide with fear.
Just the wind, man. Probably just some rats.
Josh, trying to mask his own growing unease, forced a laugh. But deep down, even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were not alone. The feeling intensified as they entered a dusty old nursery. A rocking horse swayed gently back and forth as if pushed by an unseen hand, and scrawled across the wall in what looked like dried blood were the words, "Get out." Terror, raw and consuming, gripped them. The laughter died in their throats, replaced by panicked gasps for air. Whatever or whoever haunted this house was no longer content with subtle warnings.
We need to get out of here.
Erin screamed, her voice high with terror. Turning to flee, they stumbled back down the hallway, their footsteps echoing in the stillness. But as they reached the front door, it slammed shut with a deafening boom, plunging them into darkness. Screams filled the air as they pounded on the door, their frantic cries swallowed by the oppressive silence of the house. It was as if the house itself was holding them captive, toying with them. Then, just as suddenly as it had begun, the chaos ceased. The door swung open, revealing nothing. No storm, no trees, just an empty void. Blinking in the sudden brightness, they stumbled out into the open. Gone was the oppressive darkness, the looming silhouette of the house, the menacing trees. They stood on a patch of overgrown grass, bathed in the warm glow of the morning sun. Birds twittered cheerfully in the trees lining the road where they had parked the jeep, but the jeep was gone. So was the road, the gates, the entire hill. It was as if the house and their terrifying experience had never existed. Had they imagined it all? A collective hallucination brought on by the storm and their overactive imaginations? Or had they stumbled into something truly unexplainable, a place where time and reality were fluid and unpredictable? They had no answers, only the lingering feeling of dread and the chilling certainty that some mysteries are best left unsolved. And as they walked away from the empty lot, they couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, its eyes following their every move.